The phone rang at 2:11 a.m., slicing through the silence of King Ryder's
Yes, what is
apartment.
it?
He had been awake anyway. Sleep was a stranger these nights, a fleeting illusion that never lasted past the nightmares. Flames, screams, a warehouse he'd promised himself he'd never revisit. Memories clawed at him like teeth. Trauma never needed permission. The caller ID said Mason, his second in command, the man who could read him better than anyone else alive. A call from Mason at this hour meant blood was already spilled, or about to be. King grabbed the receiver. "Yeah," he said, his voice low, calm but tense. "Boss, it's Lily," Mason said, his voice tight, controlled, but cracked at the edges. Lily, 17, daughter of Ryder, his oldest brother in the Iron Reapers, and the last living remnant of a man King had buried 3 years ago. A promise had been made that day. No one would ever touch Ryder's girl. Ever. "What happened?" King demanded, already moving, pulling on jeans and boots, the leather cut draped over his arm. "She's been arrested." King froze. His stomach sank like a stone into black water. "And she didn't do a damn thing," Mason added, letting the weight of his words linger. King's jaw tightened. The nickname, King, was never casual. It was the voice of the storm, the precursor to fury. "Where?" he asked, his voice cutting through the cold. "County Courthouse. Emergency hearing at dawn. Judge Connolly's involved." Connolly. The name hit King like a steel pipe to the gut. A man who could be bought with whiskey and an envelope. A man who smiled while the law twisted itself into knots. "Tell the crew," King said, steady but cold. "We're not letting them bury Ryder's girl." "We already did," Mason said. "Brother, something's off. Lily said the cop who arrested her threatened her, told her to stay quiet." King's hand tightened on the cut. "Who?" "Detective Caleb Brandt." King stopped moving. Brandt. Corrupt cop, skimmer, bruiser, predator. A man who had spent decades skimming seizures, covering up cartel shipments, and laughing while justice slept. King exhaled once. Dead calm. Like the seconds before a hurricane hits. "Wake everyone," he said. "I'm on my way." Outside, frost clung to the edges of streetlights. King swung his leg over his Dyna, the black bike he and Ryder had built, and fired the engine. The growl rolled down the street, shaking windows and rattling the quiet town awake. As he rode into the night, he whispered to no one, "No one touches Ryder's girl." The Iron Reaper's clubhouse was lit, the neon buzzing like a warning. Smoke curled from last night's fires, mingling with the smell of oil and gasoline. Engines revved outside as 64 riders gathered, patches gleaming, boots scraping concrete. They were a wall of loyalty, a living, breathing force no one in town dared to challenge. Mason waited by the table inside, broad-shouldered, inked neck to boots, ex-military. He was the brother King had chosen when blood wasn't enough. Beside him, Torque, the club mechanic whose hands were always dirty but heart always clean. Bishop, older, gray-bearded, the historian and calm voice. Ghost, silent scout, moving like smoke, never missing a detail. Cruz, the hothead, whose loyalty knew no limits. Doc, ex-paramedic, tending wounds and broken bodies. Bella, the only woman with a full patch, sharper than any blade. When King entered, the room went silent. Eyes followed his steps, all of them knowing the storm had arrived. "Talk," he said. Mason laid out the situation. Brandt had arrested Lily, claiming assault, claiming she had a weapon. Torque scoffed. Lily was barely 5 feet tall. Bishop muttered. Brandt flipped the story. Classic predator move. Bella slammed a fist on the table. "And Connolly will take his word as gospel." King studied them all. Ghost, for the first time, spoke. Judge Connolly moved the hearing to dawn. No lawyers notified. It's a setup. Doc frowned. Why? Bishop's voice was low. Brant's been covering up cartel shipments. He must think Lily saw something. Silence fell, heavy as lead. Then King said the words that made their blood run hotter than the engines outside. We ride at 5. 64 heads nodded. Brotherhood sealed. The Iron Reapers were moving. By 5 a.m., the sky was still black and the road gleamed with frost. Engines roared in unison as the Reapers lined up outside the clubhouse. King mounted his Dyna, feeling the familiar weight, the memory of Ryder in every curve, every custom bar, every vibration of the engine. Mason pulled up beside him. You think Brant wants her silenced? He wouldn't be the first coward to threaten a kid, King muttered. She's not just any kid. She's Ryder's. The formation stretched for miles, staggered, disciplined, each rider a part of the larger whole. Exhaust turned the cold air into fog, headlights slicing through darkness. Cars pulled over. Dogs howled. The town stirred, uncertain. When they reached the courthouse, the sun had barely risen. Brant's unmarked Charger sat parked outside, a black and yellow Predator, waiting. King spat on the asphalt, revving his engine. 64 riders fell silent. The storm had arrived. Inside, the courthouse smelled of disinfectant and stale bureaucracy. Hallways echoed with leather boots, heavy jackets, and quiet dread. Deputies placed hands on weapons, hesitation visible. They knew the Reapers didn't need guns to command a room. King sat on a wooden bench, trembling, eyes red from crying. She rose when she saw King and he crouched in front of her. Are you okay? She shook her head. He tried to pull me into his car. He said no one would believe me. He said... Bella came to her side. You're safe now. We've got you. Ghost added, videos fabricated. Brant controls the angles. Easy to make her look guilty. King's jaw flexed. Where's the nurse? Lily's eyes flickered. She's scared. Brant threatened her too. King's gaze hardened. Today, that fear would end. The courthouse door swung open, like a trap snapping shut. Detective Caleb Brant entered. Tall, square-jawed, suit pressed as if it could shield him from the chaos he had just walked into. His eyes scanned the room and settled on King Ryder, piercing through the crowd with the confidence of a predator. Good morning, gentlemen, Brant said smoothly, smirking. Cruz's fist clenched. Rage coiled in his chest, ready to burst. Say another word and... King raised a hand, cutting him off. Cruz backed down. The room was thick with tension. Every eye on King. Every beat counting seconds. King stepped forward. Detective Brant, you made a mistake.
Brant's smirk widened, a predator sensing prey. Your little girl assaulted me. That's the law. Or do animals get different rules? King's gaze was steady. You're not the law. You're the consequence of it. Brant leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper meant only for King. Walk away, Ryder, or she disappears, and maybe you do too. King's fingers flexed on his cut. Try it. See how fast you choke on your own badge. For a moment, Brant's confidence flickered. Then he straightened, shoulders squared, a smirk still plastered on his face. We'll see what the judge says about that. The Reapers shifted, a collective rumble of muscle and leather. Everyone could feel the storm ready to strike. The hearing began. Judge Connolly shuffled in, greasy hair and yellowed skin, eyes avoiding the truth like it was poison. Brant presented grainy, manipulated footage. Lily's trembling figure was shown pushing him, reaching for a knife he claimed she carried. The courtroom murmured. Whispers echoed like venom in the sterile room. King's hand rested on Lily's shoulder, grounding her. Mason leaned close. "They're trying to bury her." Bishop muttered. "Connolly and Brant hunt together. Same cabin upstate. This isn't justice, it's theater." A flash drive slid discreetly into King's hand. Ghost's eyes met his. "The nurse sent backup," he murmured. King's pulse quickened. Hope flared. He rose. "Your Honor, we have evidence." Connolly barked. "Sit down, Mr. Ryder. This is not your—" Suddenly, a woman in scrubs ran into the courtroom. "I have something to say. Detective Brant is lying." The footage was handed to the clerk. Clear, undeniable. Brant's hand on Lily's wrist. Her terror plain. Threats audible. Brant's face drained of color. His radio came up. He called in backup, desperate to regain control. But King's hand was already on his cut. Brant stepped toward Lily. King moved faster, placing himself between them. "Touch her, and you'll need a second badge to dig yourself out," he said softly. Brant laughed, bitter and hollow. "You think you're the law?" "No. I am the consequence," replied King, his eyes burning. 64 Reapers rose simultaneously. The courthouse trembled under the weight of leather, boots, and raw fury. Deputies froze. Connolly paled. Brant realized he was outnumbered, outclassed, and outmatched. "All charges dismissed," Connolly said shakily. Brant lunged at Lily. Cruz and Torque intercepted, pinning him to the ground. Deputies cuffed him. Brant hissed as he was dragged out. "This isn't over. You have no idea who I work for." King's gaze hardened. He's not the enemy. He's just a leash dog. Sunlight broke over the courthouse steps. Lily hugged King tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't thank family. You ride with them." Ghost approached holding Brant's confiscated phone. A single message glowed. "If the girl talked, eliminate the Reapers next. -K2. Cruz whistled. "Well, shit." King's eyes narrowed. Brant was just a foot soldier. Someone bigger is coming. 64 engines roared to life. The storm had only begun. By dusk, the Reapers were back at the clubhouse. The engines were quiet, but restless, like wild animals pacing in a pen. King gathered the inner circle. Mason, Torque, Bishop, Ghost, Cruz, Doc, and Bella. Plans were made. Every route, every entrance, every possible threat calculated. King's mind ran through scenarios like a chessboard of violence. "I want eyes on every cop who touched Brant. Every contact he's made in the last 6 months. Ghost, you take the street. Bella, you're sniper." Cruz slammed his fist into the table. "I want to gut someone." King's glare froze him. Patience. This isn't about rage. It's about survival and revenge. The first night ride began as a patrol through the city. Reconnaissance through dark streets. Eyes scanning for signs of K2. King and Ghost followed a lead on Brant's phone, a warehouse on the edge of town. Dim light leaked from the windows. "They're expecting us," Ghost said low. King's hand hovered over the cut. "Let's see who's really behind this." Inside, crates of weapons and cartel shipments glimmered in moonlight. They moved silently, cataloging evidence. Every corner a potential trap. Ghost froze. Someone's here. King nodded. Shadows shifted. Figures moved with trained precision. He felt the weight of 64 brothers ready to descend if called. Outside the warehouse, Brant's enforcers confronted them, guns drawn, words exchanged like knives. King stepped forward. "Walk away. This isn't your fight." The leader smirked. "It already is." A firefight erupted. Bullets ricocheted, glass shattered, but the Reapers were prepared, disciplined. They neutralized threats without casualties among themselves. Brant's men fell back, realizing the full force they were up against.
King stood among the smoke, eyes scanning for K2. Whoever he was, he had left pawns to slow them down. Inside the warehouse, they discovered files, contacts, and video evidence showing K2's reach. He wasn't just a man. He was an organized network, corrupt cops, cartel liaisons, hidden assassins. Mason shook his head. This goes way deeper than Brant. King studied the list, and he's watching us, waiting for a mistake. Bella leaned over the desk. Then we don't give him one. King nodded. We strike smart. We strike together. King insisted Lily needed to understand the danger. They trained her in self-defense, situational awareness, and quick thinking. At first, she resisted. She was just a kid. But necessity forged steel. By the end, she could hold her own for at least a few minutes, long enough for someone to get her to safety. King watched her one evening, silhouetted against the sunset, and whispered, "Ryder would be proud. So am I." The club mapped out every potential move K2 could make. Communications were encrypted, surveillance teams set. Cruz suggested a frontal attack. King shook his head. We bait him, make him overcommit, let his own arrogance become his undoing. Every Reaper understood the stakes. One misstep and they could lose more than Lily. They could lose the family they'd built from blood and loyalty. King orchestrated a fake transport, using a decoy resembling Lily. Cameras everywhere, observers in shadows. Brant took the bait. His enforcers moved, exposed themselves. The Reapers watched, calculated. They didn't engage yet. Patience was a weapon sharper than any blade. King whispered, "Now we show him who he's really dealing with." The decoy transport was intercepted. Reapers struck quickly and cleanly, dismantling Brant's enforcers. Evidence collected, messages sent back to K2, letting him know the Iron Reapers were aware, watching, and waiting. The city never knew the battle had taken place, but the street whispered. K2 finally communicated. Cryptic, threatening. You protect the girl, you die. Step wrong, and your family ends. King read the message silently, then crushed the phone in his hand. Mason asked, "What now?" King's eyes burned. "Now we prepare for war." K2 made his move. A convoy of mercenaries attempted to ambush the Reapers while they rode to a safe house. Bullets shredded air. Reapers moved with precision, coordinated, a lethal storm of leather and steel. King fought alongside them, every movement a testament to experience and rage. By dawn, the convoy was wreckage. Survivors fled. The message was clear. The Reapers were untouchable. Captured mercenaries revealed K2's identity, a former cartel fixer who had gone rogue, infiltrating police, courts, and criminal networks. He was patient, smart, ruthless. King nodded. He underestimated loyalty. He underestimated family. Plans were adjusted. The final confrontation would come. The sun rose over the city. King, Mason, Lily, and the 64 Reapers stood on the clubhouse roof, engines idling below.
King looked at his family. Brant was just a warning. K2 is the storm, but we ride together. We protect what matters, and anyone who comes for us will learn one thing. He paused. The wind caught his words. When 64 bikers ride for vengeance, the whole damn world should run. Lily stood beside him, eyes fierce, finally unafraid. The Iron Reapers roared into motion, engines thunderous. The war had begun.